In 2018, Michigan voters elected a new governor, Whitmer. In its new series, Inside Michigan Government, the Michigan Advance will be sitting down and talking to leaders of key state departments about what they do, as well as problems and solutions for Michigan.
I'm state treasurer. I have been in Michigan basically my whole life. I came from the Public Service Commission most recently, where I served as a regulatory commissioner regulating electric and gas utilities from 2016, where I was appointed by Governor Snyder. But Governor Whitmer really brought me back, what I like to say, home. So I worked before that 10 years very closely with the Department of Treasury as an outside contractor on its offerings to Wall Street. So working with rating agencies, working with investors through all the bond issues and things like that. So I'm absolutely thrilled to be back here in this building. And I am from Lansing area originally. I went to East Lansing High School, but I attended the University of Michigan, where I got my degree in economics.
All right, go blue. I'm Chris Kolb. I'm the state budget director. Background is I was a local city council member from Ann Arbor, which is my hometown. Degree in natural resources from U of M. I graduated up to the Michigan Legislature, was elected with the same time that the governor was elected to the State House. Most recently, spent 10 years as the president and CEO of the Michigan Environmental Council.
Economics is a fascinating study of how people make decisions with limited resources. And I think that's really how we all in government think about these things. We only have so many dollars of which to deal with, and how can they best be utilized to reflect the things that are important to us. So I think economics is core to what we do, especially financially, from the state of Michigan. In my prior position working with Robert W. Baird, in that 10-year period of time, I worked very closely with Treasury. I actually had the opportunity to work with 4 different state treasurers pretty closely. So starting with Treasurer Klein, Dillon, Clinton, and Corey, working with them through most of their interactions with Wall Street. So from that, I really got a direct perspective on what it's like to have this job, and understand a lot of the difficult decisions and creative decisions that have to be made at times. So I think it was really seeing that job being done directly that got me interested in wanting to do this, and seeing the tremendous impact that someone in this role can have on the state of Michigan. So I think it's really easy to think about Treasury as the state's bank. So we collect, we invest, and we disperse all state dollars, and we make sure that they're being used efficiently and effectively according to what the laws and what we have in place from policymakers. So that can be anything from our Bureau of Investments, who invests $78 billion to benefit over 500,000 pensioners that depend on those payments, to dispersing local revenue sharing and other local support, and all of the other banking functions that you would think of for the state really comes through Treasury.
What goes into building the budget is an amazing process. When you're in the legislature, you only see the tip of the iceberg. You think you might know, but you have no idea, and the staff really do a great job. We had to get a budget done in 60 days. And normally you would start working with the department sometime after Labor Day, and you'd go all the way up to presenting the budget in early February. So we really truncated that down. Plus, this governor had a very aggressive agenda, and we had to make sure that each of her priorities was, fit into that budget. So I really told the department heads at the first cabinet meeting, I said, if you're going to make, recommendations for increases, they had to meet one of the governor's priorities. And I grouped those into three buckets. Transportation, fix the damn roads, improving Michigan's education system, and protecting public safety and health. And if they could do that, I'd look at it. If they couldn't fit those into one of those categories, you might want to wait till next year. There's only a handful of revenue sources that you can use to raise over $2 billion. Transportation has, traditionally been a user fee basis. The gas tax in this case is the easiest one to go after. The more you use the roads, the more you pay. I drive over 30,000 miles a year. It's going to cost me more, but it should cost me more because I use the system more. We understand that this will have an impact on people's wallets. So we looked at how can we address that impact on low-income families. So we are, in our proposal, we want to double the earned income tax credit from 6% of the federal rate up to 12% over the next year. And then we'll also know that fixed income folks will also be impacted. So we are eliminating the retirement tax that the Snyder administration put on pensions. So we are trying to address those issues as well. If someone's got another idea of how to raise $2.5 billion, hey, we're all ears. But right now, this is a plan that fixes the problem and allows us to make the needed investments in our people and our communities as well.
So this dovetails into what Director Kolb was just talking about, into some of the pension tax changes that were enacted in 2012. So as part of that, the Snyder administration was looking to achieve a significant business tax cut. And then to pay for that, there was an increase in pension tax as part of it. So, I mean, I think the governor's mind, these things have, kind of come together from the beginning. So at that time, the corporate income tax was changed to a 6% tax for C corporations. The other pass-through entities, which you're just describing. So that could be, an S corporation, an LLC, some other type of, partnership. They did not pay the 6% tax. They instead paid, as the income passed through the business, to the individual income tax rate of 4.25%. The governor's proposal would, what we have been calling business tax parity, it would bring the tax rate to those pass-through entities to be the 6%. To accomplish that, there'd be a new tax, a pass-through tax of 6%, and then on the individual income tax return, they would receive a credit on that 4.25%. So then the net payment is the 6% payment for those pass-through entities. We believe that structure is appealing for also federal tax purposes. The 2018 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act limited the amount of state and local tax deductions to $10,000 for these entities. So, but there's no similar limitation for pass-through income, unlike, individual income. So then they would be able to increase the amount of federal deductions so that we would hope, to minimize the net tax impact on these entities.
I don't know if you mentioned, but there's also a $50,000
Thank you.
deduction.
Director Kolb. Yes, so for the smallest businesses, the first $50,000 would not be subject to the tax. So that would, in every business, every of the pass-through entities would receive that amount as well.
Outside of some smaller conversations, I think most of what you've seen has been in the press, and it was pretty expected, the responses. And it's now, once the governor has proposed her recommendation for the budget, it's now up to the legislature to put forward their budget suggestions or through legislation. And then we'll start negotiating. But now that the ball's sort of in their court, and we're waiting to see what they propose. But they are going to have to come up with a way that fixes the roads, improves our schools, and protects our people. And so we're waiting to see what they propose.